Hello and welcome to another podcast edition of Taiwan Talk, ICRT's weekly interview segment, bringing you conversations from and about Taiwan. I'm Keith Manconi. Taiwan is a country with a lot of animal lovers. Many open their home to strays or volunteer their time to walk dogs at animal shelters. I've hung out with people that would stop everything they're doing to feed a hungry kitten on the street. It's very nice, but it also, kind of held us up for dinner sometimes. But the point is, there's a lot of warm-hearted people out there putting their money and their time where their mouth is. But today on the show, we're going to be speaking to a group that wants to make this loose movement, this big group of warm-hearted people, a little bit more organized and political. The Taiwan Animal Protection Party jumped onto the scene earlier this year, just after the January elections, making it the first in Taiwan to hold animal rights and welfare as a core issue. I wanted to learn a little bit more what they're about, so I invited on their chairperson, Zheng Huiyuan, to join us and tell us about it. So, Chairperson Zheng, thanks for joining us.
Hi, 大家好，谢谢 Keith 的介绍。大家好，我是台湾动物保护党党主席郑慧媛。
And because today's interview is going to be in Chinese, I also invited, once again, to help us out, DJ Joey C. DJ Joey C., welcome to the show. And would you consider yourself among those animal lover type people?
Yes. Hi, Keith. Thank you for inviting me once again. And yeah, I have 2 dogs at home, actually.
You've got 2 dogs at home?
2 dogs and a cat, excuse me.
You do not have a big apartment either, do you?
I don't. It's a crowded space in there. Yeah.
Okay, so a big-hearted person here, even if he doesn't have a big apartment. So back it up. But let's get to the main event. So there are already a lot of political parties in Taiwan, dozens and it's not just the main ones. It's not just the KMT and the DPP. We've also got many minor parties, most of which are not even represented anywhere. They don't have a seat in the national politics. They don't have a seat in local politics. There's just dozens and dozens on many individual interest groups. But you guys have said, there is not one yet that is covering the set of issues that we care about most, animals. So why do you feel like Taiwan really needs a party like what you're doing?
其实我们观看现在台湾有非常非常多的政党，其实现在台湾应该超过快100多个政党哦，实际上。
So Chairperson Zheng says that there are approximately more than 100 political parties here in Taiwan. She and her Secretary General, General Hua, when they first started the party, the intent was to jump out of this box of the constant battle between the blue and the green and the independent or the pro-China alliance or the pro-China positions that seems to be the agenda and the platform for most of the big parties or most of the voices coming from Taiwan.
我认为台湾更需要另外一个政党是超越我们过去在看待两岸关系的事物，我们应该用新的视角、新的角度。
And so she says that we should, go beyond just our cross-strait relations. There are other affairs in Taiwan that needs to be addressed, and they want to base their party on rationale and good intentions. A lot of things that need to be addressed in Taiwan, they get lost in this political wrestle of whether or we should go green or blue. And Chairperson Zheng says that with rationale and good intentions, she wants to base her party platforms and policies on these 2 ideologies and maybe go from that standpoint to address some of the issues that need to be addressed in Taiwan.
So I think a lot of people that would think about animal rights issues, animal welfare issues, they would often think, how can I volunteer? How can I donate my money? What can I do in my personal life to make the lives of animals a little bit better? But it sounds like you guys are saying, that's good, but really there needs to be something done at the higher level, at the political level, at the policy level, to really make a big change. So what kinds of changes are you hoping to see, and why do you think that there needs to be a political movement to make this happen?
其实台湾在过去有非常非常多的动物保护的协会，还有动物保护的团体，其实都在实际上在第一线做救援，然后做私人狗场，然后去帮助这些动物。
There are many associations or groups here in Taiwan that address the issue of animal protection here in Taiwan. Some of them actually conduct rescues. Some of them open up shelters. And also the laws regarding animal protection in Taiwan has been amended over 10 times. And it's always a struggle between groups lobbying legislators to get the laws just right. Sometimes they end up looking maybe more like a manual for animal keepers or animal lovers to how they should be treating their pets. And so Chairman Chen is saying that someone needs to be working from the inside to truly be able to execute and carry out constraints on these laws and implement them on a more orderly or more efficient fashion. And so to have different voices having a singular platform and to have unity inside the government is something that is very necessary and would be efficient.
So it sounds, just based on my understanding, it sounds like the issue that you're highlighting here is the fact that a lot of these private animal shelters, they have all these rules for them, and so a lot of them are operating illegally because there's just so many complicated rules, it's almost impossible to be a legal animal shelter. Is that kind of what you're hinting at there?
我跟你说，这会有一个问题，就是说你现在私人狗场，全台湾有这么多的狗场，私人狗场实际上只有3间是合法的。为什么他们不愿意合法
？On issues of legalizing pet shelters around Taiwan, Chairman Chen says that one of the biggest problems right now is with evaluations, of course. Assessments, whether it be the hygiene or the personnel to take care of these pets are sufficient. And on that matter, a lot of private shelters, they actually don't want to go legal because if you go legal, then you got to go through all of these tests, evaluations, and assessments. And a lot of these private shelters are being run by 1 or 2 animal lovers. And it would take more time out of their day-to-day routine to respond or walk the government officials through these evaluations. So they probably don't have time for that.
再来，政府也不敢。为什么政府不敢呢？因为呢，今天其实面对了一个问题，其实很重要，就是说
On the flip side, why doesn't the government enforce these private pet shelters to go legal? Well, it's also because that the government-run shelters currently, they actually allocate or they give a lot of their pets to these private shelters to have them taken care of. And so if they try to enforce the private shelters to go legal, then chances are you will eventually lose these private shelters and have more animals run wild in Taiwan.
Oh, right. And so there's a lot of challenges out there, but I think, looming on the horizon, a lot of our listeners will be aware that in Taiwan early next year, there is actually a new policy that's going to be in place that will make it illegal to euthanize animals in animal shelters. Of course, currently there's a 12-day policy where if an animal is left in an animal shelter for 12 days or more, it is legal for that shelter to euthanize the animal. But that's going to become illegal next year, and a lot of animal rights advocates are a little nervous that the country isn't quite ready to take on that number of animals, to care for that number of animals. And so I'm sure that that's something that's weighing on the mind of your party as well.
我觉得是这样子哦，明年的零安乐政策啊，其实是会是一个很大的危机。
On the issue of euthanasia, the most practical problem that we'll be facing in the near future is that the shelters that we have now are reaching their optimal capacity. We approximate about 6,000 to maybe 7,000 animals, pets that can be contained by these shelters. But you have to also remember that a dog can give birth to a litter of 12 babies or 12 puppies or kittens every year, and then it grows exponentially. After a year, they're able to give birth to more.
这其实是可以想象的。它可能会带来公共安全的问题，包括很多的车祸，其实是小狗可能跑出来。
So public safety becomes an issue when they run around and maybe cause accidents, or health issue like rabies that we had a year ago, noise or waste disposal. These are all problems that we need to address. And also, in addition to all of that, there's also the wildlife issue, because a lot of pets, when they run wild, they also affect the wildlife and their habitat. So animal protection and wildlife protection, they need to go hand in hand. So there are more factors to be considered, and though the TAPP, they start from the platform, their immediate platform is through animal protection. Eventually, they hope to address all of these problems together as a united party.
Let's now that we've brought up all of these issues, let's talk a little bit about what your focus is going to be, because you were telling me before we came into the studio that it's not just about dogs, it's not just about cats. You guys have many animals in mind when you talk about animal protection. So tell us a little bit about just the scope, the focus of what your party will be working for.
应该这样子讲，当然我刚刚说我们不是只管狗跟猫，但是现阶段就是至少在2017年之前，我们会以这个议题作为最主要的focus 的点。
Okay, so we are at the top of the food chain, of course, and we are, they say, the steward of our environment. So the TAPP, they want to consider every single animal in the food chain to be under our watch. But at the same time, there are a couple of things they want to address more immediately, like we said, more towards dogs and cats, pets. And so in 2017, we're trying to push for to implement the zero euthanasia laws here in Taiwan. There are a couple of immediate problems we need to think about. One is how to reduce population growth, of course. And secondly, veganism is not a very realistic solution for everyone in Taiwan. And so we need to also think about how do we help these animals who eventually will be slaughtered to live a better life. Now, there are things like maybe we could consider implementing constraints on food manufacturers of animal products to first give the animals enough space to make sure they're healthy. And Chairman Chen actually said there's more factors to be considered when you're talking about animal health. For example, their weight, their temperature, and of course, many other things to be considered. And so these are some of the items that they will be putting into their agenda.
当然啦，相对来讲，你如果要有好的所谓动物福利的系统，一方面民众要能够支持，当然二方面它的价钱也会提高。
Lastly, all of these efforts will certainly cost more money. And much like a fair trade label, it's going to eventually have someone to sponsor or pay for the efforts. And so do we, as Taiwanese people, have enough awareness for animal protection to be willing to chip in? Or does the government have to handle that? Now, these are things we have to consider. But of course, they're saying that right now they really do need the support to make their voices heard and to have these efforts backed up.
So I did just a tiny amount of research, and as near as I can tell, I think that you guys are you were the only party that I could find that was specifically focused on animals, and that was the whole reason for your party to exist. Are you aware of parties in any other country that's doing what you're doing?
在别的国家有啊，荷兰啊，德国啦，陆陆续，其实他们最早是荷兰开始建立动物保护党的，那我们只是跟着他们的脚步做，因为其实
Okay, in terms of animal protection, there are countries like the Netherlands or Germany. They have already started parties based on these ideologies. And if you look on WeChat, or there are a lot of platforms to receive these sorts of information. In the Guangxi province in China, they actually have a dog meat festivals. So there are brands that actually make accessories or bags out of animal furs that are dogs or cats. And so TAPP, they aim to be the Asian movement to initiate animal protection and hopefully to spread this movement to other parts of Asia.
但其实并不太容易，因为包括说有一些国家其实不允许政党的成立。
It won't be easy because some Asian governments, they actually forbid the formation of parties. So once again, Chairman Chen would like to remind us that TAPP does not focus on just pets, not just dogs and cats, but since these are the species that most people tend to care more about, they want to start there and hopefully then move on to other species that also need protection here in Asia.
So first you want to focus on the cute animals, and then you can move on to things like spiders and lizards and stuff that it's harder to love?
对。
There we go, baby steps. Now, here in Asia, I guess one difference between what we might see in Holland or other places that you've talked about is that protection of animals is actually a part of many religions here. How is religion playing a role in the formation and the development of your party?
宗教跟你们的
跟我们的
宗旨有什么关系？有什么连结啦？
宗教为什么会问这个？
杀生啊。
哦、
Yeah.
A lot of your, I understand that a lot of your supporters are Buddhist.
Yeah. 所以我想说你怎么会问这个？OK， 当然啦，我自己本身是佛教徒，所以当然我自己在看这件事情上面就是
Yeah, she can see a common ground or shared agendas between say, the Buddhist and their ideologies. She herself just happens to be a Buddhist, but many religions out there, they promote the protection of life, thou shalt not kill, for example. So they do welcome anyone who's willing to support their cause. Doesn't really matter your religion or your religious background.
And let's just think about how the voters, how the people in Taiwan are going to look at this. I mean, I know that you have plans for 2018 to put up candidates. And let's just say, for example, I'm a voter and I'm looking at your candidate for Taipei City. So if I'm voting for a mayor, I mean, I care about things like roads, I care about things like schools, I care about things like food safety. Maybe I also care about animals a lot. Maybe that's one thing that I do care about a lot. But what is your party going to have for those voters who care about all those other issues? Are you going to have to develop a broader platform? And when you do, what happens to the animal issues?
我想，因为现在为什么我们必须要从地方首长的选举开始做？当然，一方面最重要的一方面就是为了打知名度，这个是没有办法去否认的。
Okay, like you said, Keith, Chairman Jen is running for Taipei mayor in 2018, or looking forward to running for mayor in 2018. And she says right now the agenda, the most important item is to have their voices heard, to have more presence in these sorts of events, public events. And she says she's a realistic person. She realizes that the promises you make during the campaign trail is not always going to be able to be realized once you step into office. There are issues that are still very tied down by the public budgets and by traditions. Issues like education, the aging population of Taiwan, and infrastructures of Taipei. She says she will certainly hope to address them. However, to be honest, some of these older parties, they have baggages. They have things that they simply cannot engage in. And so the idea is to the idea is to have a more refreshing party that can do things that other parties haven't been promising.
但是我可以告诉你说，至少在我自己来看，我希望能够召集更多的年轻人为他们自己的未来打拼。
And also, more importantly, is to have the youths be willing to engage themselves and to support a cause that they believe in and to be politically involved and support them in the long run. Okay, ma, 有没有漏掉？
可以。
Okay.
You need to have a lot of trust in this guy. He could be saying anything right now.
Oh, really?
Dangerous. Dangerous. Talking about where your party came from and why it's on the scene right now, what do you think it said? Because, you know, you're saying that you have ambitions to grow this sort of movement for all of Asia. What do you think it says about Taiwan and the way that people think about animals here and people's relationship to animals here? That Taiwan was really the first country where this happened. Does that say anything about Taiwan?
很多人觉得我今天来上 ICRT， 我应该要讲一些比较煽情的话，因为可以博取大家的关注。
Okay, before Chairman Jen arrived here at ICRT, she said some of her advisors tried to convince her to come up with a spectacular story about why she decided to form the party, maybe hopefully an emotional bit as well, emotional story. And she said that's actually not the kind of person she is. She came from a point of view where she herself is a Buddhist for life. So a lot of the views she has lived by happen to coincide with the main principle of TAPP, which of course is respect for life.
所以我才希望说 OK， 那今天既然有这个政党，那是不是能够透过这个政党去传达这样子的理念。
And she said she actually wants to invite more people who are a bit more rational, a bit more pragmatic even when looking at issues such as animal protection, respect for life, and other political issues. She invites more people who are on the center or who are not on the extremes of the political spectrum. And she says there's been a... people often relate animal protection enthusiasts with people who, you know, protest or get emotional, throw fits.
但是对我来说，我可能很难成为这样子的人。
She says this is not about that. This is about taking a principle to respect life and develop that into the party, the foundation of a new party.
All right. Well, you guys have a lot of work ahead of you. The next round of elections are, I guess, only maybe less than 2 years away at this point. So could you tell us a little bit about what you have planned over the next year, next 2 years, as you prepare for those elections, or even outside of, preparing for elections? I think that you have some other plans as well.
我想我们现在的计划可能都还是主要是放在台湾这个地方。
Their plans for the immediate future is first and foremost to get their feet on the ground, to plant their roots here in Taiwan, in north, the central or southern Taiwan, to at least have party headquarters set up. And also they want to work on archiving and digesting and understanding for themselves some of the pre-existing animal protection laws in Taiwan. And also to recruit talent, to recruit people who are willing to work for them, with them, and also maybe become their nominees for the next election.
I think I read somewhere that you guys also wanted to help organize like volunteer efforts to help animals as well. Is that something you guys are looking at?
现在当然陆陆续续得要找，而且其实最主要是因为其实现在全台湾各地有非常非常多的动物保护团体。
Yes, of course, they're looking for volunteers, but their volunteers might not be what you imagine they will be doing. They won't be engaging in some of the frontline efforts, say opening shelters or maybe rescuing animal rescues or contributing to population control. There are many animal protection groups here in Taiwan already doing that. What they will be doing with their volunteers instead is to combine these singular efforts from different counties, from different cities of Taiwan, of animal protection groups who are already doing those things and coordinating them in an efficient way throughout the whole country as a party.
All right. Well, it sounds like you have your work cut out for you. So we won't keep you any longer with this interview because it sounds like you got to get to it. We have been speaking today to the chairperson of the Taiwan Animal Protection Party, Zhen Huiyuan. Chairperson Zhen, thanks for speaking with us.
谢谢大家。
And Joey, thank you for helping out too.
Anytime. It's a pleasure.